Well, all right. So we're almost at the top of the hour. So welcome everybody to another Global Expansion Team Zoom. Tonight, we're going to get a little bit out of the box. We usually are doing some, practical training on sales tips and how to, build your network and how to plug into the system and that kind of stuff. But tonight, we're really going to talk about this mission that we're on called ASEA that often feels so divinely guided. There's just so many coincidences that happen along the way where you just get chills and goosebumps knowing that you're part of something really, really big and really, really special. So Debbie Wessler has joined us tonight. We're going to talk just back and forth about some of our experiences. I know that, so Debbie, welcome. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Cindy.
Yeah. So I know that Chuck and Tam, the old ASEA logo, before it was just the bold letters, used to be a letter with a little accent over the S, and it was to help people pronounce the word ASEA right. And I remember Chuck and Tammy saying, ASEA is an amazing thing because where the accent went down, it represents a dip in somebody's life. And then the accent goes up. And oftentimes ASEA picks people up right when they're at some of the lowest points in their life. And then it propels them up to a much better place in their life. And I know that you've had that experience. I've had that experience. Many people have had that experience. And oftentimes ASEA comes into people's lives as an answer to prayer, which is very interesting.
Yes, very.
So just tell everybody who's not familiar with your story. We had a very special connection. Tell them what, briefly what the situation you were in and what you were doing about it and how ASEA came into your life.
Well, let me first say that I've always loved being with Cindy and Bo Buck. We were in another company together, another health company, actually, and they were just so dynamic. I always loved being around them. They were from Aspen. I used to live in Aspen. We had some great connections. We were at several really fun functions together, just having a blast. So I trusted Cindy and Bo implicitly for one thing. But in 2008, I guess it was, my life really changed. I had never had money problems before. And I had stepped down from owning, I still owned it, but I owned a interior design company. I'd stepped away for a little while to help a man with his children's website. And in 2008, he went bankrupt. He was a great visionary, but he didn't know how to run a company. And he just left, never came back. We were left with no money coming in. He just stopped paying any of us. And so I was a single mom with a daughter at home trying to go to college. My son, luckily, had already gone to college. And I had an elderly mother who, she didn't have a lot of extra money at the time to help in any way. So I didn't want to stress them out. So I just kind of kept all this to myself. So no one really knew what situation I was in, including Cindy, definitely. And but I was scrambling to get from paycheck to paycheck, because after several months and going through my life savings, I finally found a job as a server in a restaurant. And I was working double shifts at that restaurant just to try to make enough money to pay for a little bit of food, but all the bills. But I just couldn't make enough to pay for everything. You just couldn't work that many hours. And I got behind on my mortgage, and they turned me down for loan modifications to lower my interest so I could afford it. They kept saying I wasn't making enough money. So they finally sent me a letter of foreclosure. And that was probably the worst day that I've had in my life. And I know there's so many people out there with much worse days, but the stress and knowing that you take care of some precious beings, your children and stuff, was just crippling. So my thought, I just took that foreclosure paper and I went down and I went up to my bedroom. I got down on my knees. I was beside my bed. This is all real. And I remember I told this story to a few people in a room when I first got started, because this is what I was living, and Vertus Norton was one of them. And they all said to me, what an incredible story. And I went, well, it's not a story, it's what I'm living. So it kind of morphed, I guess. But I was sobbing. I went to bed and didn't know what to do. I honestly didn't. I just couldn't work any more hours. They weren't even open that many more hours. And my name must have dropped into Cindy's head. That's what she told me. And she called me before I got out of bed the next day. She had no idea what was going on in my life at all. But she informed me of this great health breakthrough. And she said, your name came into my head. And I'm sure that was because of my prayer. I just know it. And she told me about ASEA and a little bit about what it had done, but she sent me the video that Ellen Nova had made. And I remember just going through it and just briefly after that thinking, holy cow, this is huge. You know, I don't know how she found out about this, but this is huge. And I took it to a good friend who was a molecular biologist and all that kind of stuff. And she confirmed that this was massive and explained it even more to me in great detail, which we don't usually do. But anyway, and I just got chills remembering, oh my gosh, if Cindy hadn't called and she confirmed it, you know, even more and just taught me more about it. And that's what started my whole turnaround in life. And I'll let it go back to you because I have a story to tell you about what happened next that I don't say too often.
Well, maybe I don't know if I can stand the suspense. Maybe you just have
okay. So, you know, I didn't have much money. So I called a pilot friend of mine who had a buddy pass, and I was able to get to the launch because you all were telling me how important, and I knew how important it was being in the other company. And I was like, oh, I've got to get there somehow. So he loaned me a buddy pass or gave me one, and I flew to the launch of the product. So I'm sitting there listening, and I had a very close girlfriend who's Italian. And she had been with me in the other company too, but she had been searching and searching and searching for something for her two boys because they had health challenges and nobody could figure it out. She'd taken them, she'd spent hundreds, thousands of dollars on so many different things to try to help her sons. And her name literally popped into my head the same way my name popped into Cindy's. And I called her and I said, Beverly, I found something that could help your son. I'm sure about it. I mean, you can't believe the stories I'm hearing. Please call me back. Well, Beverly didn't call me back until I got home a week later, which was so unlike Beverly. But when she called me, she said, Debbie, I don't know what this is, but my mother had gifted me a trip to Italy on her 50th birthday, and that's where she was. That's why she didn't call me back. But she said, bring on whatever you're talking about. When I got home, your message was the only message on my phone. And so whatever it is, I'm signing up now and I'm going to get it from my sons. She's so analytical. I couldn't believe she even said that because normally she'd not want to know what it is, what it did, you know, all that kind of stuff. And we kept talking and she said, what day did you call me? I said, it was Saturday. I was at the launch. I couldn't believe you didn't call me back and stuff. And she got dead silent. And she said, Debbie, do you know where I was on Saturday? And I started getting the chills. And I said, where were you? And she said, I was in the Vatican on my knees praying for something for my two boys. And she signed up immediately. And this has helped her and her two boys immensely.
Yeah. It's amazing how it happens. You know, when I knew you could have the best product on the face of the planet, but if it was in the hands of the wrong people, you were in big trouble. And so Bo and my big concern was who was running this company and were they good people? And was it, you know, a mission full of integrity and honesty and, you know, compassion? And was it real and not some, you know, BS marketing concept? Anyway, we flew in and met the corporate crew that's right. running this operation, supporting our project. And we're so impressed by the people that were running this. We just thought, oh my goodness. So it was real. And we decided to come back and start calling people about this. Well, I remember sitting in my office going, who am I going to call? And just like you, this name came into my head, David Walker. And
Yes.
I thought, at first I fought it. And I said, David Walker, why am I calling out? Sorry. So I just picked up the phone. I didn't know what I was going to say, but I just called David. I said, hey, David, it's Cindy. He goes, Cindy who? I said, oh, this is Cindy Buck. He goes, Cindy Buck, what are you doing calling me? I said, oh, David, your name popped into my head today, and I just thought I'd check in and see how you're doing. And he says, well, I don't know if you've heard. I said, heard what? Oh, I've been so sick. No, what's going on? He told me what the situation was. And I got chills. That's usually an indication that something's going on. And I said, David, I think that's why your name popped into my head today. I think I'm supposed to tell you about this. Anyway, so when we get those little hints, that inspiration, we have to act on it, because we have a lot of names in this world. But if you ask, who am I supposed to call? And that very special name comes into your very special head, I really would encourage you to act on that. Call that person, and don't try to understand why. Just reach out and see how they're doing. Same thing happened with Tina Saul. I was in my office saying, who am I going to call? And my office has got junk all over the place. And I looked over at this 3-ring notebook, and I grabbed it and opened it up. And in the sleeve of the notebook was this thank you note. And I thought, picked it up. It just had a little bit different energy than the other things in my office. And I opened it up, and it was a thank you note from Tina for me hosting a women's expo in Aspen. And so I thought, so it had been a couple of years since I got this thank you note, but I saved it because it was so thoughtful. And so I called Tina and I said, hey, Tina, it's Cindy. And I get the same, response, Cindy who? Oh, I said, Tina, it's Cindy Buck. And I said, I'm sitting here with this thank you note that you wrote me in my hands, that you wrote me for the Women's Expo that we hosted. And I just wanted to thank you for taking the time out to thank me. It's just so thoughtful. And she says, oh my goodness, Cindy, you're so welcome. I really, appreciated the event. And, we started talking, what are you up to? And she says, I don't know if you've heard. Same thing. And it turned out, she says, I said, I think I'm supposed to tell you about ASEA. And she says, ASEA? And I said, why, do you know about ASEA? Because this was 12 and a half years ago. Nobody had heard about ASEA. She said, you're the second person that called me today about ASEA. She said, Cindy, this is a God thing. I don't know the other guy that called me, but we've done business with you before. We want to do this. So there, these kind of things are little taps on the shoulder, letting you know that you're going in the right direction, and that you're meant to do this. That there are people on their knees praying for what you have. I was talking to Mal Sword the other day, and Mal's done so well in this business. He certainly doesn't have to be, cold calling and working his brains out like he did in the beginning of starting this business. And I said to him, why are you still working like you're working? And he said, Cindy, you know what? At the end of the day, I know that there's somebody on their knees praying for an answer, and I might just have what they're looking for. And that's what keeps me going.
Absolutely. Another story that I love this story because I was standing, some of the leaders were at a breakfast, and Gary Samuelson was right next to me in line. And Dr. Gary Samuelson is who helped us stabilize these molecules for new people who don't really know who he is. He was probably one of the most humble scientists I've ever met in my life, because some of them are so full of ego because they've done extraordinary things. And so has Gary Samuelson. But he's standing there, and he gets teary-eyed actually, and just says, Debbie, I don't know what to do with these people who come up and tell me thank you for saving this person or that person, or what it's changed their lives into, or anything. And I said, but Gary, and he said, but the information didn't come from me. And he does say God. He goes, it came from God. And I said, Gary, be thankful you're just the vessel that God chose to put this information into. And he got even more emotional, and he said, this is so divinely inspired. It just gives me chills.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Absolutely. Vertus has 3 sons and 1 daughter. And I remember that, he had stumbled across this biotech company. They were struggling, he couldn't help raise the money. And he says, we've got to stabilize this, this machine, this idea, it's just never going to work. So we've got to stabilize these molecules. And so he said to Nancy, I need a scientist, some kind of biochemist or somebody that can stabilize these molecules. And she said, oh, do you want to meet my neighbor? He's an atomic medical physicist, with a PhD. And I'm like, what are the chances of that happening? And so that's how this, Virtus ended up meeting with Gary, and Gary didn't want anything to do with salt water. And he walked in with his little bottle of nanoparticles and thinking, I'm not a businessman. These guys are businessmen. Maybe they can help me market my nanoparticles. One thing led to another, and they were able to stabilize the molecules. And that was the beginning of the whole mission. But, I think it's we're given answers all the time, but oftentimes we don't listen. And so if we get really clear about what we're doing and what we're looking for, and then ask and realize, like you said, we're just the instrument. We're just, being guided to, to help people along the way, being that force for good in the world. And, a lot of times what we're guided to do doesn't make a whole lot of sense. We don't have to understand it. We just have to, follow the little promptings and go in the direction that we're encouraged to go. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. So, I was telling somebody this morning, I said, I'm not very excited about just a business, because there's lots of ways to make money. We can make money all kinds of ways. But I'm really excited about a mission, where what you're doing really matters. Oftentimes when we meet people, they are, they're bored because they're an entrepreneur and they want a big challenge. And then they see what this is and they think, oh my gosh, this looks like, something I could tackle. Or they're sick and they're scared and they want an answer, to their health problems. And this gets to the root cause of their, cellular imbalance, or they're financially distraught and they don't know where their next payment's going to come from. And they just don't know where to turn. So each and every one of us reaches out to somebody different, and each of one of us has a role to play. I remember I was down in Australia, and I had told somebody who told somebody who told somebody who told somebody, and this word of mouth had traveled from the Northern Hemisphere all the way down into the Southern Hemisphere. And this lady came up to me and she said, "Are you Cindy Buck?" And I thought, "Oh, brother, what now? What, I
right.
said, "What did I do?" And she said, "No, I want to thank you." And I said, "Thank me for what?" She said, "Well, you don't know me, but you told somebody who told somebody who told somebody who told somebody who told me about this wellness concept. And it made sense to me. So I invested in the wellness concept. And as a result of doing that, my son is living a much better quality of life." And I thought, wow, people that make fun of network marketing don't understand the ripple effect that we have in the world, because, she doesn't know me. I don't know her. And I wasn't more important than the next person who spread the word, or the next person who spread the word, or the next person. Every single person in that communication chain was absolutely pertinent in getting this woman the message, down in Australia. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, never doubt that what your voice, never doubt that it doesn't matter. Right.
And I had the exact same thing happen. I flew to Sweden. Pia Erickson picks me up. She takes me directly to a meeting. And I walk into this meeting, and this lady, this beautiful Swedish lady, just throws her arms around me and starts sobbing. And I looked at Pia, because most people in Sweden do speak English, but she did not. And I looked at Pia, and Pia's smiling, and she said, "She's trying to tell you thank you." Her sister was on the couch as a couch potato, not speaking, thinking anything, because you told, and she went through the whole thing. I told David, who told Harold, who told Pia, who told several people, and then she learned about it. Her sister has come back to life. And I started crying at that point. And we just hugged each other for such a long time. I don't think there's any better thing than to have somebody have such gratitude, because you've told somebody about something, and it just did ripple all the way down. And you have no way to know how profound that is until it happens to you. And it will if you continue. That's just it. And I was just telling my team, I said, Alan Noble at the Impact Tour just did a very good business opportunity. And I said, remember that you're not only telling people about some way to regain your health and to be healthy and well again, but there, oh my gosh, I just took my daughter, I was just telling Cindy, out for to a restaurant for her birthday. And when I got that bill, I almost choked. It was huge because the prices have gone up so much and things just cost so much more. And I just can't imagine what some people are going through trying to put food on their table and or, you know, paying for electricity. I hear stories all the time about people having to choose between paying their electrical bill and their groceries. And we have that gift also, if this appeals to them at all. And so there's people now praying for that also. Just help me, please. I just need to, well, kind of like what I was doing, you know, please help me with my finances. And so we have so many gifts that we can offer people. And just remember that. And don't be ever afraid because, you know, there's so many people. I heard it at the Impact Tour all weekend. You know, she bugged me for 4 months or 4 years or this or that. And now I'm so thankful she did. Just remember, you know, if they finally clue into this, they will thank you forever.
Yeah.
You know, because it's going to help with something.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and the other thing is the law of attraction. So
yes.
Mal Sword talks a lot about feeding your mind and making sure that you stay on a positive vibration because you're going to attract, it's like a tuning fork. You're going to attract things that are on that same vibration. And if you're not feeding your mind positive things, you can spiral down and really get in a low vibration. And then the same law works. And then you attract everything that's on that low vibration, which is probably not things that you want to attract into your life. So, and when you're really in a positive vibration, it is just absolutely amazing what flies into your world. I mean, things are speeding up, and you know, we're living in very interesting times. And so it's very important to keep yourself physically strong, mentally strong, spiritually strong, you know, emotionally strong, so that you stay up here rather than, you know, getting down into those lower places. So I've been doing that much better than I have in the past. I think it's more important now than it has been in the past. Just
so important now.
So crazy. So crazy.
There's so many things out there at this point that I guess we're aware of thanks to all the news, social media, everything else that's out there. And I just feel like I need to be a light to help raise vibration, to keep the world a good place, basically. And we can all do that. And if we, I mean, together, like we always say, we're unstoppable. So, and I think ASEA is that place. I think it's a lighthouse.
Yeah.
And I think, you know,
when Virtus turned down the offer from that pharmaceutical company, in that very moment when he had those faces of those 8 people that he was worried about in his brain, and he thought, you know, there's no way that I can take this product away from those 8 people. And the pharmaceutical company said, are you kidding me? Do you see the size of this check? And he says, you know what? I know it's only 8 people to you. It's 8 people to me, you know, and that it's not going to be on my conscience if something happens to those people. Those people are finally getting better. You know, and right then when he kept his principles over his economic drive or his ego drive, and, you know, and decided that these people were more important than the money, that there was a seed planted in this company that I think has continued to grow. And Tyler has continued to nourish through the Ethos Academy, teaching everybody the importance of, you know, not letting our drive for our ego or our economic need get above our principles of integrity and honesty and compassion and kindness and, you know, all of those kind of things. So
absolutely. And I know the leaders have talked because we've seen so many people come in over the years because we've really been with this company since the beginning, a lot of us. And it's very, I guess I'd say, amusing to us to see the people that maybe don't have the same ethos as ASEA, come in maybe even, but then not do anything and then eventually kind of fall out. But the really good people that want the best for everyone, that has this light, that really wants to share with people on a people to people, heart to heart basis, and not just for money. We all need money. We get that, but not just for money. We've seen them all stay. We've got such great leadership in this company, and people we can be proud to work with and proud to have our children around. Jackie's been raised by half these people, and definitely by Cindy and Bo. And I couldn't think of hardly any people I'd rather have them be around than these extraordinary people who can share light and love with people, other people.
Isn't it great when, I mean, our kids are, Dylan actually turns 32 tomorrow. And
wow. And Jackie was 34 today. So there we go.
Yeah. And, you know, Mackenzie is 30 now. So they grew up. I mean, we've been in network marketing for 24 years now. And so they grew up around The Strangest Secret and Think and Grow Rich and, you know, all these, you know, positive thinking kind of books. And when those concepts start coming out of your own child's mouth, it's like, wow, this is pretty cool that this is, you know, really. And of course it's their idea when they go, hey, have you ever read this book? I got to tell you that the other day, Dylan said to Bo, he says, hey, Dad, if I told you about a really good book, would you read it? And Bo didn't answer. And I said, what's the book? He said, Anatomy of Peace. And I said, Dylan, I gave you that book. I said, that's the whole ethos that ASEA is based on. Anyway, it's great to be part of a company that is, you know, such a force for good in the world and really doing really important things. So, you know, and there's a spiritual element to this business that it's just prevalent. I almost wait for people to say, gosh, you know, this company was an answer to prayer for me. You know, absolutely. I mean, many people. I didn't know what my purpose was anymore. And I, you know, hadn't worked for 9 months and I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know which direction I was supposed to go in. And I finally put a big prayer out to the universe, and Chuck and Tammy Gates called me the next day and said, I want to tell you about ASEA. So, you know, I would encourage people, if you need help, ask. And if you are looking to help somebody, ask who you're, you know, meant to talk to, and then don't question, just call those names.
Just call them. Yeah.
Just call them and see what's going on in their world and see if ASEA will serve them. And at the end of the day, it really is about helping people. And the way that we're building humanity together is, you know, we're not having trivial conversations. These are really important, you know, conversations. And I think people really treasure people really being curious about their life, their world, and asking, how can we help you make that better? I mean, how Absolutely. Often does that kind of thing come around?
Yeah, just tell them your name popped in my head. So there's a reason I'm meant to call you. I just want to catch up, you know, what's happening. Why would your name come into my head? And they'll tell you. But I just want to say one other really quick story. Cindy blessed me. We were all moving forward, and we used to have bronze and gold base camps, and I was brought to the first one by Cindy, and then I earned it from then on out. And I went there expecting to be taught all about redox and how to sell it. And so I sat down waiting, and I just will never forget, because that's when I sat back and went, holy cow, what is this company? Tyler came out and went over the anatomy of peace, how to treat people, not as objects, but as people, and come from the heart when talking to them, and know that there's different situations for everyone. I mean, your wife could be frazzled when you walked in because she's been with the kids all day trying to corral them and keep them entertained and all this kind of stuff. And when she goes, can you please take Bobby? And you've had a rough day yourself, you don't get angry at her because that's putting her as an object. You put yourself in her place and go, okay, she's done this all day. I haven't been around the kids. I could at least take them.
Yeah.
But he taught that for 4 hours, and you know how most of you know how Tyler teaches. And I remember sitting back, I don't even know if Cindy knows this, and just going, oh my God, this is the most amazing company I have ever seen.
Yeah.
And I had already been through several companies, as far, not network marketing necessarily, but just companies.
Yeah.
No one. And Jerry Yerke at the Impact, he said, he's been through more companies than many, many people as a corporate person and been to many companies. And he said, I want you to know, I have never heard another company talk about next level marketing. I have never heard another company talk about an ethos or a soul. I want you to know what kind of a company you are all blessed to be with.
Yeah.
It was very powerful.
Yeah.
So thank you, Cindy.
Absolutely. It's so true. It's so true. I just wanted to tell one quick story, one last story. We could talk all night, but just one last story to wrap it up. But we have a really dear friend named Nancy Van Domelen, and she had got cancer on her face, and they gave her this chemotherapy lotion, and she had an allergic reaction and almost died. And the drug shouldn't be on the market anyway, because it's happened to a lot of people, and it hurts a lot of people. But anyway, so we were very worried about her. And we said, Nancy, we've got to get you on ASEA. And she said, well, I don't take anything without running it past my guy down in Crestone, because he hand makes vitamins for me and he saved my life. And I said, well, run it by him, Anyways, we gave her a box of ASEA, and she didn't tell us, and she didn't tell her guru down in Crestone that she was taking it, but she started taking it. And then she went down to this guy, and he drew her blood, and she said, how am I doing? And he said, it's fascinating. There's a spark in your blood that I've never seen before, and I don't know what it is. And Nancy had just written a book called A Spark of the Divine.
Oh my gosh.
And that's what I call ASEA, a spark of the divine. I really feel like at the end of the day, that's what it is. I mean,
yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Out of this world. Yeah. So anyway, well, thank you so much for this conversation. I know, it's kind of a tricky conversation to have sometimes, because we like to keep church and state separate. But,
yes.
I think that we're all divinely guided, that we're all a very important piece of this ASEA puzzle. And, don't ever doubt the important role that you are playing in this very important project called ASEA. So Debbie, I want to thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Thank you, Cindy. This has been wonderful. Thank you.
All right. Good night, everybody. Have an incredible night.